I've driven without a seatbelt on. It was like across the parking lot, to be fair. But still, I've driven without a seatbelt on and I didn't die. But I'm not out here telling people, no seatbelts, no seatbelts. Like, that's unsafe. Okay, hi, everybody. Thanks for coming back. We are talking about Paul and Morgan today. I know that you guys really enjoyed the Girl Defined series that we did, so we're going to talk about Paul and Morgan, specifically about purity culture in this video that they made called Why Christians Should Stop Dating So Long Before Marrying Somebody. So I have thoughts and feelings. Let's talk about it. Okay, really quick before we start the video, I just want to say, again, we talked about this in the Girl Defined video. I don't have any issue with people who are Christians. This is not about them being Christian. This is about people sharing information that sort of intersects with mental health stuff that is not fact-based, that is not evidence-based, and can be actively harmful to people. So the religious aspect of this, in my opinion, really doesn't matter. It's about the information that they're sharing on their platform. So let's get into it.
Let's just dive right into it. Morgan, you're not still a little bit upset, are you, from so many people disagreeing with you in your last video?
Oh, I know.
What's up, guys? How you doing? I'm Paul.
I'm Morgan.
And this is the Paul and Morgan, the Paul and Morgan Show. We're calling today's video Why You Don't Need to Date That Long Before Marrying Someone.
Because y'all went cuckoo ka-choo.
All right, so we did a Q&A last week, and we brought up that we don't think you need to date that long before knowing if you want to marry someone. And it got a lot of pushback. So I think what specifically got the pushback was Morgan said that you know in about 4 months if you want to marry the person, you know them well enough. Many of you guys were like, no, wait at least a year, wait 2 years. You don't know someone well enough in 4 months, that's too fast. Okay, we get it. To many people, that sounds very fast. We're sharing our hearts here, and you don't have to agree with us. And, you can hear things that we're saying and be like, my situation's different, or whatever. We're just asking that you contemplate the words that we're sharing with you.
Yeah.
And you pray about them. In this video, we're going to break that down, why we feel like 4 to 6 months, you know what you need to know to decide if you want to marry them. Buckle up, guys. You're in for a wild ride.
First of all, I looked up some research before we started because y'all know I always try to come to bat with like the appropriate facts and research to back up the bullshit that's coming out of my mouth. Evidence would have us believe, or evidence sort of shows that the average relationship goes through a period of about 2 years in which we have this sort of honeymoon phase. Basically what this means is that you don't really get into like the nitty-gritty bullshit until 2 years and beyond. We're still very much in that infatuation phase, very much the phase of like my partner can do no wrong, and sort of feeling a more heightened sense of attraction, of commitment, of interest in that relationship than you will long term. This is like well documented. This is not pathological. It's not a bad thing. It's just that we as human beings sort of suffer from shiny object syndrome sometimes. So like when something's new and exciting, it's like, yay, I love it, but like someone leaving their socks on the living room floor after 2 years starts to feel a little bit different than it does initially. And like that is very okay, very healthy, totally normal. My husband's nodding behind the camera. I'm the one who leaves my socks on the living room floor. But again, this is very normal. This is not a bad thing. This is not a sign that you as an individual suck or that your relationship is doomed to fail. It's just that, again, we as human beings go through that phase where our attraction feels different in the beginning than it does long term. We have to acknowledge this. It's very important to own this because like when we're talking about long-term relationship satisfaction, and especially something like marriage, which is legally binding and very expensive to get out of, it is irresponsible to say that you can make the decision about who you're going to spend the rest of your life with after 4 to 6 months because the research tells us otherwise. It is also frustrating to me to hear someone with a large platform saying, we're just sharing our hearts and you can agree with us or disagree with us, but we just ask that. My computer's dying. Hold on. Honestly, I think it should read. It'll. Ew, I know, I hate it. Yeah, it's very frustrating to me to hear someone say, we're just sharing our hearts here and we're not trying to tell you what to do. We're just asking that you consider the things that we're telling you. Like, that's the same. If you with a large platform are telling people that they don't need to be in a relationship for longer than 4 to 6 months before they get married, that's advice that you're giving on your very public and relatively large YouTube channel for your young and impressionable audience. There's not a There's not a way around it. You know what I'm saying? It would be different if they were making a video about our dating story or what our dating story looked like. There's still a case to be made that they could be advocating for that perspective as being normal by sharing their relationship from the perspective that like what we did is fine. But that's not even what we have here. Like, this is the title of the fucking video is why Christians should stop dating so long before marrying someone. You're actively giving that advice. So there is no like, we're just sharing our hearts. Like, that's not what it is.
So, after I've recovered from y'all's sassiness,
We can take it, okay? We can take people disagreeing with us.
let's just talk about why I said what I said, why we have said this before in videos. When we're talking about dating, we're talking about godly dating, what it looks like, and like, that's what we mean every time we're talking about dating, okay?
Intentional dating. You're dating for a purpose.
Are we saying that you're going to see literally every single side of them? You're going to know every single thing about them, how they handle every single situation in life? No, you probably won't see that stuff for
years
5 years.
Years and years, in your marriage.
Yeah.
But what we are saying is in 4 months, if you're dating intentionally, if you're getting around that person, not just in a lovey-dovey, romantic, fun.
All you do is go out on funsy dates and
but
talk about fluff.
Right, but you're actually getting to know them, being, with their family, going out, maybe serving with them. If you're really getting to know somebody, in 4 months, you know their character. You know if they have a heart for God or not.
Okay, so, oh boy, this is so frustrating. This happens a lot in this particular sect of fundamentalist Christianity. Don't come in my comments being like, I'm a Christian and I don't do that. I know that. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to these people. This happens a lot in this particular community where regular dating, all of us heathens who are dating without Jesus, they wouldn't know. But if you use the patented intentional dating TM, then you'll know. That's not how it works. The research is very clear. There is a period, we're talking about human psychology and human relationships. It's not like we're delineated among Christian humans and then the rest of you fucking schlubs. Like, we're all the same. We all have the same biology and same brain chemistry and the same relationship tendencies. This is why, the whole ass field of anthropology exists. We can see trends in human behavior over time. Does that apply to every single solitary human being that exists on the planet? No. But can we make pretty safe assumptions about human behavior overall? Yes. That's what research is. So this claim that intentional dating is different than, other dating, unintentional dating, if you just date on accident, I guess. That's, first of all, apparently not backed in research. And don't get me wrong, if that worked for them, if they did their Christ intentional dating and it worked for them, go off. That's great. That's nice. I'm not here to debate the happiness of their marriage. I know that people do that a lot with Paul and Morgan. Personally, I feel like that's a little bit irresponsible and just none of my business. If they're happy, great. Not that I don't care, but that's not my marriage, But again, it is irresponsible to advocate for it worked for me, so I think everyone should do it. I've driven without a seatbelt on. It was across the parking lot, to be fair, but still, I've driven without a seatbelt on and I didn't die. But I'm not out here telling people, no seatbelts, no seatbelts. That's unsafe. Don't do that, because we have research to support how unsafe and what an irresponsible decision that is. You know what I'm saying?
If they have a good work ethic, if they're disciplined, if they are loving, the big things, And so we're just, standing by what we said, that it doesn't take that long to know if this person is who I want to marry or not.
This is another thing that's frustrating to me. You'll know within this amount of time what their character is. Maybe, but you also might not. And this is a pretty well-documented phenomenon in these fundamentalist Christian relationships. We're seeing this play out in real time with Josh Duggar and his wife. They clearly did not know one another's character well enough before they got engaged and married, because there is a whole shit show of terrible, abusive, inappropriate behavior that's happening there. And they used intentional Christ-like dating. What happened to them? When we rush into marriage, it is impossible to know fully the person that you are marrying and dating, especially when we are talking about relationships that happen under this really close supervision where you're not allowed to be alone together and stuff like that. That's not the case.
You can look at Morgan and I's personal experiences. Morgan, I know your experiences of dating were a little different than mine. I dated a girl before Morgan, and we dated for 4 months. And at that time, I knew her well enough, learned, her strengths and weaknesses, she learned mine, and we decided the best thing to do was to not get married. And, that was that. We didn't need to date for another year to come to that place.
When I met Paul and we started dating, it was so different, so intentional, and that was all him. Like, we had fun, but it was an intentional fun, and it was an intentional, we're asking these questions, we're doing these things, we're putting one another in these scenarios to see how they respond, so that we can know quickly whether or not they are someone we could marry. And then I think when we got to the point of deciding, like, okay, I could definitely marry this person, we left it up to the Lord to reveal to us if that was in God's plan, and it was.
Yeah, that's a good point. I got to the place where I was like, okay, I know this girl well enough to make a decision. There's no reason to keep dragging this out. I'm going to seek the Lord to make sure that his blessing is on this, but there's no reason at this point to drag this out and go another 4 months, 8 months, year of just dating the way we're dating. People come to that place and then they just kind of coast on through it because maybe marriage isn't something that, they set out to, find. That wasn't the end goal. They're just dating to date or whatever. So they coast right through that place. And that's when you start crossing physical boundaries because you know that person so well. And the next step should be, engagement. It should be deciding about marriage. But instead it's, no, we're just going to keep dating, and dating's great.
There it is. You can't convince me that the short dating and an engagement is about wanting to have sex. Like, it is. He just said it. The thing that comes up for me listening to someone say, like, I knew at that point, and so there's no reason to drag it out. Why? What do you mean there's no point? If you're going to spend the rest of your life with them and you feel that strongly, then why? What do you mean drag it out? Like, that doesn't make any sense. The only thing that these people can't do in dating that they can do in marriage is fuck. So we're pretty clearly getting married so that we can have sex, which is like irresponsible and inappropriate, and it brings up the whole purity culture thing. I pulled up some research about purity culture bullshit that is upsetting. Find it on my phone now. Pause. Yeah, I'm going to list some research in the description for you guys to look at, but there are a lot of complications associated with purity culture. There are a lot of wonderful, like, anecdotal experiences that people have shared. Not wonderful in that they're good, but like wonderfully written accounts of how purity culture has impacted people's lives in a negative way and the trauma that is associated with purity culture. But there is also an increased likelihood to not appropriately label rape as rape. The transformed wife is one of those people who really like goes hard with this perspective, but like this belief that like there's no such thing as marital rape or labeling rape as consensual sex is very, very common in these religious fundamentalist circles. Again, I'll put the research in the description so you guys can look at it, but there are a lot of problems associated with purity culture and marital satisfaction and sexual satisfaction. We get into rape culture shit really quickly. Just like this is like a haunted house of awful trauma, negative human experience kind of stuff that's associated with purity culture. So like 0 out of 10 don't recommend from an evidence-based mental health perspective.
Dating. 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years. We're not trying to beat anyone over the head, but oftentimes sexual boundaries get broken because there's no, ending in sight. I think it's important right now to say, are there exceptions? Yes, there absolutely are exceptions. There are people that are dating for certain reasons or circumstances they need to date longer. Maybe one of them is overseas. There could be a number of reasons, and we do want to give that caveat and say that our, 4 to 6 months of dating before you should decide if you want to marry them, it's not set in stone, and we're not saying that has to be the case. But we are challenging you to look at the way that you're dating, look at your time frames, and use godly wisdom there. Why?
The only reason that they have cited so far as like the reason that people should be dating shorter is that it's a waste of time and that your sexual boundaries will be broken, and essentially that you'll have sex before marriage. Those are not good enough reasons, in my opinion, because again, we have a lot of research to support the idea that dating for a long period of time is the most responsible and most effective way to guarantee long-term relationship satisfaction. There's another piece of research that I will link in the description that talks about how the the average rate of divorce goes up. The less time that you spend with a person dating and getting to know them before you get married, the more likely you are to divorce. I mean, like over 50%. I'll link that in the description also. But again, like this is well documented in the research. Your relationship satisfaction struggles. We have correlations between purity culture and rape. There is a conversation to be had about sexual compatibility and sexual chemistry. There's just like a whole host of really good evidence-based reasons to support the idea that it is the responsible and the most reliable decision to date for a longer period of time before you get married. Not wanting to have sex before you get married is not a good enough reason to have a super short engagement. Like, I'm sorry, that's not a good enough reason. We have the body of research on this side of the table saying that it makes sense to wait, and the body of research or evidence on this side of the table saying that you should not wait. Not the same. Like, not good enough, in my opinion.
Are you needing to date for a year, 2 years?
Also, I think that if you are really dating in a godly way, like the Lord is going to reveal to you the things that you need to see and the things that you need to know before you make a decision on, okay, could I marry this person or not?
Okay, this is the other thing. This is the thing that happens in these religious fundamentalist circles where if you really believe, then you will know. And if you don't know, it's because of you. It's because you don't believe hard enough and you're not Christian enough. You're not deep enough in the Kool-Aid. And so that's your fault then. You should just like try harder, like be more godly and God will reveal to you. Like that's not true. This is like straight up prosperity gospel and the same excuse that this circle uses to blame people for all host of different traumas and abuse and inappropriate behaviors that happen within this community. That like, well, if you believed hard enough, you wouldn't have been assaulted, or if you were a good enough Christian, you wouldn't have done this, that, or the other, or they wouldn't have done this, that, or the other, and it's your job to be a good Christian and forgive them. Again, I'm not a religious person, so that doesn't matter to me. The like, you should be more religious, but it is so frustrating to me that they are using this platform to speak to other people who are Christian and essentially say that if you're not sure after 4 to 6 months if you want to marry someone, it's because you're not religious enough and not godly enough, and so God's not speaking to you. Like, that's abusive. That's harmful. Using this platform essentially to shame people for not feeling God, which is like up for debate about how that happens. Like, she doesn't outline a specific way to be more godly. So this just comes off as shaming people who don't have the same experience that they have. That's not appropriate. And also, again, not a good enough reason to shame people into getting married before they're ready to. Divorce is expensive and traumatic and awful. And oftentimes people who get married this early end up having children early. And then we have kids in the mix of this relationship in which parents are not happy and maybe we're getting divorced and like all of this awful, terrible stuff that happens. Like,
if you get married and something huge is revealed, you know, I'm not putting that on you, but I would ask you, you know, did you ask the right questions when you were dating? Did you ask, you know, hey, have you ever struggled with porn? Have you, whatever it is?
Right, that's a great point. You know, have you talked to people that are close to them and said, hey, like, you know, be honest with me? But yeah, like Morgan said, I mean, stuff is going to come out. It's tough to say some of these things because we know there's going to be stories where someone was like, you know, I dated this person and then a year later I found out this horrible thing about them. Unfortunately, that could happen no matter what. You think you know somebody and 5 years down the road, something is revealed that was hidden.
Are they actively working against themselves?
Apparently. That's a myth. This idea that you're equally as likely to find out something terrible about your spouse 5 years from now as you are in the first year. Nope. We know the evidence is very clear. The research is very clear. Again, that 2-year honeymoon period is when that like infatuation starts to wear off and we start to realize things about our partner that are compatibility issues. And so you are more likely to find out in the beginning, in those first 2 years, that your partner is not a good fit for you. 2 years and beyond is where things start to stabilize, things start to calm down, and we start to settle into this more committed, easier-ish relationship culture that, you know, most of the things that would have come out by now. And it's not to say that people don't experience, you know, awful things that happen 10 years or 20 years into marriage. Like, that's very common and that happens, but you greatly reduce the odds that this will happen to you by increasing the amount of time that you date a person. Again, the research about this is clear. It's not up for debate. It's not up for debate. I don't care what Paul and Morgan think about it because we have the evidence that people have done over long-term studies to prove that that's not true.
But you know, when you're putting these things in place, when you're getting around them and seeing them in different situations, when you're asking the right questions, when you're asking people that know them well the right questions,
the information you need to know will be revealed.
yeah.
This is literally victim shaming. They're saying that if you follow their advice and you get married in 4 to 6 months and something bad happens and you find out that they have an addiction or are an abuser or some kind of deal-breaking issue, that it's your fault. That you are the one who did not ask the right enough questions. You were not religious enough, so God did not speak to you, and that's on you. That's not us. It's not that we could be peddling bad advice. Nope, not that one. Definitely it's your fault. Like, that's inappropriate and also like such an irresponsible use of a large platform. Please, like, ugh. Again, I don't disagree that these people should be allowed to talk about their own marriage or their own experience. Like, great. There's an audience for that. There are lots of people who are interested about, well, maybe not lots, but there are people who are interested about Christian relationships and dating and whatever, and like, go off. Have a great time. Talk about your marriage. Talk about how happy you are in your life. But please don't use your anecdotal experience to try and shame other people into doing the same thing that you did when we know that it's contrary to the research.
Like Paul said, of course there are circumstances where someone's like, well, I did everything you guys are saying. I asked all the right questions. We went to premarital counseling. I talked to his family or her family, and nothing seemed wrong or weird or whatever. And then we ended up getting married, and now he abuses me. You know, and our hearts are for those people, and we are so sorry for that circumstance that you might be in. But, you know, for this video, we are talking to people who are just curious about, as a general rule, how long would it take for me to really get to know someone?
So she flat out owned or acknowledged the existence of abuse and basically just like, we're going to discard that one. It doesn't fit with my narrative, so we're not going to talk about it. My heart is with you. But anyways, we're not talking to you, though. You're talking to somebody else. Just go over there. That's inconvenient for me. Like, what the fuck? That's so inappropriate.
Yeah.
And our answer is, if you are very intentional about it and you are going about it in a godly way, 4 to 6 months, we feel you could really get to know someone as much as you needed.
Yeah.
You know, when Paul and I got married, there were things that I learned about him that I did not know before marriage.
Mostly good things.
Well, there were little things here and there, or just habits that he had, or little OCDs, or whatever.
That's true.
That, you know, I had no idea about. But those were not things that, if I did know about, would have stopped me from marrying him.
Which is great if that's their experience, but that's not everybody's experience. And again, the research also clearly indicates that cohabitating before you get married is one of the best ways that you can suss out if this person is a long-term partner for you. Cohabitating and living in the same space is a very stressful and difficult transition for a lot of people. And if you want to increase your odds that you will have long-term marital satisfaction, cohabitating before you get married is one of the best ways that you can do that, because those little idiosyncrasies come out. We have to deal with the fact that someone won't put their coffee cups in the sink even after they're dirty and we're not going to use them anymore. We have to deal with the fact that someone leaves cabinets open long after they finished using the thing that they're going to use out of it. And that's all useful information to have and conversations that you can talk about and figure out, is this a deal breaker for me? Because like leaving a coffee cup on the counter is not a deal breaker for most people, but maybe it fucking is. And you won't know that until you go through that process. All of the things that they are advocating for are contraindicated in the research.
Yeah.
They're just things that you kind of learn as you go along in life. And, you know, in 10 years, I'll probably learn something new about him, and he'll learn something new about me.
I'll learn something new about myself.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, we saw someone comment and say, you know, you don't know if you truly love a person in 4 months. Like, you need at least a year to realize if it's true love. I disagree with that. I mean, you choose to love somebody. You date to see, is this the person that I want to spend the rest of my life with and choose to love? Is this a person that I can glorify the Lord with and that we can serve the Lord together? It's not, is this the person that I have this magical love with?
Yeah, that kind of is a worldly response of, well, you don't know if you're truly in love.
Yeah.
Guys, love is a choice. It's
Woo! Woo! Yikes. Don't get me wrong. Love is very much an action that we have to continue to learn the best way to love our partners over time. And I do agree that people will learn new things about themselves over time and we will change and become new people. Marriage is very much about adapting and growing together as a team, as a unit. But this idea that you can just choose to love somebody and just force the pieces together, like that's not how it works. I don't have any research or evidence about soulmates or like true love or whatever, but essentially to me this comes off as saying get married in 4 to 6 months, and if it doesn't work out, it's because you need to work on your contentment and you need to choose to love this person even if they're not a good fit for you, because this is the marriage that you found yourself in now. And so if you're not content with that, it's because you're probably sinful. You're too worldly. Like, no. Sometimes people are just not a good fit. Sometimes people spend any length of time together and make the decision that they're no longer compatible and that that's not a good fit. And that is okay. It is okay to throw in the towel on your relationship at any time that you and your partner deem is necessary. And there is no shame in that. And I am so frustrated they're hosting this whole conversation with this umbrella of shame over it. That like, if it doesn't work for you, it's because you're not godly enough. And if you have sex before marriage, that's a bad thing. If you cohabitate before marriage, that's a bad thing. And we think that you should do this. And if you learn new things, then you should just try harder. Like, ooh.
It's a choice. It's something that is going to go up and down throughout your entire life with the person that you're married to. You have the choice to wake up and say, I choose to love this person.
Yeah. And you can grow in your love for someone else, and you will.
When I first fell in love with him, it was the falling in love, the dopamine, the chemicals in your brain that release when you have those butterfly feelings, etc., etc. But now I love him in a way where I still get butterflies when I see him sometimes and whatnot, but it's a different type of love of we've been through hardships together. We've come out of those hardships together. He's taken care of me. He's gotten down on the bathroom floor with me to lift me up. Like, he has been there with me and for me. And that was all through marriage. It wasn't through dating. It was through marriage. And it has been such a beautiful thing that people, I think, miss out on.
No. I'm happy that he has been there for her and that they seem to be vibing. Good for them. But to say that that's something that they can only experience through marriage and not through dating is literally false. Lots of people experience their partner being there for them, being reliable for them, being supportive, being a good person in dating. There are lots of people who may choose to never get married because marriage is not for them. They don't like it. There are lots of people who have healthy, happy relationships that will never get married, and that is also okay. This like shoehorning of people into partnerships and you married them and you married them and like as if that's the plan for everybody is literally made up. You don't have to abide by any of these social constructs if you don't want to, and it is okay for you to format your relationships in a way that makes sense for you.
And honestly, because they date for so long, and you can only love a person so much when you're dating. There's just something very beautiful and wonderful about marriage. And so, like, don't be afraid to get married.
I think
Well, okay. First of all, maybe that's the case for them, but that's not the case for everybody. But also, don't be afraid to get married. She's talking about it as if it's like ordering something off the menu at a restaurant. Like, this is a life-altering decision that, again, is very costly, very difficult, very traumatic to undo. We should be treating marriage with the gravity that it deserves because it is a very big decision. Choosing to legally bind yourself to someone and spend the rest of your life with them is not a decision that we should be encouraging people to take lightly. Again, for all the reasons that I've already listed, but also because marriage is a very like sacred, special thing. It's okay to want to treat marriage as a very serious, like strong commitment because it is.
a lot of people are going into the dating season like perhaps prematurely, and they don't have these things in place, these important things in place before they go into the dating season, so that when they do jump into it and they've been dating someone a year and then the thought of marriage gets brought up, they're like, oh, but I don't have, the finances are not in order, the idea of kids, like there's no way we'd be ready for kids, so on and so on and so on. I'm at this stage in life and I should be at this stage. That was kind of on you because you started dating probably before you needed to be dating.
Okay, this is the other thing, the like gatekeeping about dating and relationships. You are allowed to start dating whenever you want to, as long as it is a consensual and safe and responsible decision for you to be doing so. If you are able to meet your own needs and make your own decisions and be safe and responsible about it, go dating. There also is no reason that we should be dating for the express intent of getting married. Lots of people start dating when they're very young, and that doesn't mean that they should be dating to get married or dating to have children. This also, again, is like shoehorning this idea that all people need to date to get married and then to have children. That's not the way that it looks for everybody, and that is okay. Not everyone is meant to be a parent. Not everyone wants to be a parent. I would argue that those people are probably the last people that we should be trying to force to have children, because again, having kids is a life-altering decision. This is just so frustrating to me. You, again, are allowed to format your relationships and your dating experience and your romantic experiences in whatever way that makes sense for you, as long as it is safe and consensual. That's it.
It wasn't a I'm not ready for marriage thing. It was I wasn't actually ready for dating thing.
That's true. That's good. So I think before you even start dating, ask yourself, if I come upon meeting a person and we fall in love, can I see myself marrying them within 6 months to a year of knowing them? And if the answer is, well, no, because I would need to get this in order and this in order, and I want to finish school, and I would like to be working for a year at least, or I want to travel first, or I'm not ready to have kids at all, blah, 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 then maybe be like, you know what, I'm going to hold off on dating for a little while longer until I can see myself ready for those things.
So we're just supposed to be alone. They're actually telling people that if you're not ready to get married within 6 months of meeting a person, that you need to be alone. No human connection for you. What? Also, I think there's a case to be made too for the really like wonderful and life-changing skills that we learn by being in a relationship. There's lots of human development and maturity or maturation that happens when you engage in relationships with different people, because we learn about ourselves, we learn about other people, we learn how to be a good partner, we learn how to support people who have different needs, we learn about how to meet different love languages and all of this stuff. That's all useful skill building to be doing before you meet the person who is going to be your life or long-term partner, if that's what's in the cards for you and that's what you want. This idea that you should just fucking be alone, be celibate, be lonely until you are ready to get married, first of all, is like mean. But second of all, I think sets people up to, this is why we see this culture of like, we met, we got engaged, we got married within the span of 6 months, and now we fucking hate each other's guts. Not that I'm saying that's what happening with these people, but just that does happen in this culture, because people are so fucking desperate to no longer be alone that it's like, fuck it. If you're a warm body, give me the ring. Let's go have sex, because I am so over being alone and not being able to experience physical touch or intimacy or connection with other human beings. And so like anyone will do. That's not a good environment or attitude to approach relationships with, because it is okay to have a very discerning eye and to say, yeah, no, that's not a good fit for me, or I don't like that. And I think there's a case to be made again for our ability to make safe and responsible decisions about relationships when we're not in this like crazed, desperate place of like, I just need someone to touch me, man. Like I need somebody to care about me. And like, that's what this culture sets people up for, is that feeling of desperation and desire. And like, I just need to be in a relationship. That's not healthy. Okay, hi. Sorry. Camera died. I ran out of coffee and we had to take a pee break. So we're back.
As I saw how this video is wrapping up, I feel like maybe we came across a little more like laying down the hammer than we intentionally meant to.
Again, these are our own opinions. This is what we believe. We're not trying to shove it down anyone's throat.
Yeah.
You guys can just take what we're saying and, you know, take it to the Lord and see if you can get any wisdom out of what we've said.
Yeah. Maybe.
The reason that this frustrates me, because like, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to go out and fucking restructure my life based on Paul and Morgan's advice, but I've also done a lot of work on my self-esteem and my ability to trust myself and my ability to feel confident in my decisions and empowerment. But for someone who is like a younger person, like a teenage girl watching these videos who really idolizes Paul and Morgan and feels like they have good advice, this is a person who's going to carry a lot of shame into dating, because you've told them that you should know by 40 4 to 6 months, and if they don't, then they're going to feel like, oh, I'm not doing it right, I must not be godly enough. It sows the seeds of doubt for a lot of shame and self-criticism later on down the line that A, are not helpful in your pursuit to form healthy relationships, but B, are actively harmful and abusive to other people. This happens a lot with this type of content for like fundamentalist religious people. We're like, it's just my opinion, it's what the Lord has placed on my heart, and like, sure, maybe it is, but that doesn't give you the right to have a public platform, share this information on your public platform in a very authoritative way, and then excuse yourself from the negative consequences of the bad advice that you're sharing. If you're going to be a person who has a large platform and is sharing advice that you are presenting in a way as if you are the authority, as if you have the factual information to back up the things that you're saying, then you have to sit with the consequences of how that bad advice might negatively impact people's lives. I cannot agree with or abide by someone sharing this advice and then saying, but I don't want any of the negativity though. Don't give me criticism. Like, no, it is very important that if you are a person who has a public platform and wants to share information like you're an authority, you have to own responsibility and accountability for how that might impact people's lives. And it will not always be good, especially if you are sharing advice that's not from a fact-based point of view. Ugh.
You were planning on dating 2 years, and after this video, you're gonna date a year. At least it's, improvement. Guys, we do care about your thoughts though, and we'd love to hear it in the comment section, and let's have a conversation. But don't be mean in the comment section.
Yeah.
We weren't mean in this video, right?
Comment below and let us know, what are your thoughts on the things that we've said? Do you have a differing opinion? We want to hear it.
But if you do have a differing opinion, you better have a good reason why.
Yeah.
Seriously though, we respect your all's opinions.
Give this video a thumbs up if it made you think for 1.2 seconds or longer. And announcement!
I don't care about that. We're not watching the rest of this fucking video. If it's not already clear, this is bad advice. Please feel free, again, to structure your relationships in whatever way works best for you. But I also do want to encourage you to look at the research and be mindful of the things that the research tells us about how to experience long-term relationship satisfaction and things that we know are healthy and safe and all that stuff. There is lots of wonderful information about dating and relationships and marriage and all that stuff available on the internet. But again, I want to encourage you to be a conscientious consumer and to be mindful of like, why is this person sharing this with me? What's their motivation to do so? Did they have a vested interest in me taking their advice? And in Paul and Morgan's case, they do. They actively make money off people watching their videos, so I want to encourage you to please not go, don't subscribe, don't hate watch their content because it only gives them more of a platform. Please, there are lots of places on the internet that you can go and have opinions about their content and the things that they share, but I really want to encourage you to not engage with them directly because this is harmful advice. We don't want to play a role in perpetuating harmful advice. So we're just going to leave it there. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. If you do like this, like the video and subscribe to the channel. We do stuff like this, but we also have educational content, like a whole host of other things on this channel. So I'd love to have you stay and be a part of our little community. Share the video to help the channel grow and to help each other grow. And I will see you guys next Saturday. Okay, bye.